I showed up with chrysanthemums for Mother's Day. My mother shut the door right in my face. There's no room for you here. 4 months later, I purchased a suburban house for approximately $1.2 million. At my housewarming, my relatives practically pounced on me. What is all this? Some kind of performance? Why have you been pretending to be broke all this time? My reply silenced them so abruptly the entire room went still. But I'm getting ahead of the story. My name is Emily, I'm 32 years old, and one telephone call flipped my entire world over. It was from my aunt, Aunt Diane. We hadn't spoken in several months, despite always having been close. "Sweetie," she said, and I could hear the stress in her tone. "I need to speak with you." "Everything all right?" "Last night, I had a horrible dream about your parents. I know it's been years since you spoke, but maybe it's time to try again. They're still your family." "Family?" "Right." I let out a sigh. Aunt Diane was the only relative I still maintained contact with. She was aware of the entire saga, why a decade ago I severed ties with my parents, my brother, and my sister. "Aunt Di, I truly don't believe that's wise." "Just consider it," she implored. "Mother's Day is approaching. Perhaps that's the right moment." I had absolutely no wish to, but for her sake, I agreed to at least think about it. She'd always regarded me as an actual person, not a walking bank account or a letdown. If this would settle her mind, I could think it over. To grasp why that call was such a significant deal, we must rewind 10 years. I was 22. I had just completed my degree in financial markets and investments from a state university in New York. I'd secured a junior analyst position at an asset management firm that served clients trading on the New York Stock Exchange. I was renting a tiny one-bedroom in Queens and attempting to create a career from the ground up. Then my grandmother, my father's mother, passed away. Unlike the rest of them, she had always been decent to me. When the will was read, it turned out she'd left her house, with its yard, to her 3 sons, my father Mark and his 2 brothers. They sold the property and divided the proceeds. But here was the interesting part. To each of her 5 grandchildren, she bequeathed $50,000. My brother Jake, my sister Madison, me, and our cousins Logan and Hannah, we each received $50,000. It was all equitable, fair. Or so I believed. 3 days after the will reading, my mother called. "Emily, come for dinner tonight. We're gathering the whole family." When I arrived to my parents' apartment in Jersey City, a typical tired high-rise on the 14th floor with peeling paint in the hallway, Jake and Maddie were already sitting at the kitchen table, wearing grim expressions. I should have sensed trouble immediately. "Sit, Emily," Mom said, setting a tea mug before me. "We need to discuss something serious." "Okay. Your sister is getting married in 4 months." "Wow, congrats, Maddie." She didn't even smile. "Thanks. But we face an issue," Mom went on. "Weddings cost a fortune." And there it was. "We believe," she added, "you should hand your inheritance share to your sister for the wedding." I was literally wordless for several seconds. "Excuse me? What?" "Your sister needs a lovely wedding," Mom pressed. "That $50,000 will handle the major expenses. Venue, gown, photographer." "That money belongs to me. Grandma left it for me." "Don't be selfish," my father interjected. "In this family, we help one another. Jake got his portion, the cousins got theirs." "Then why am I the only one expected to surrender mine? Why not split the costs among everyone?" "Because Maddie needs it more," Mom snapped. "She's starting a family. You don't even have a boyfriend." I rose from the table. "No, I am not giving it up. It's my inheritance, and I plan to invest it in my future." My sister's face flushed crimson. "You're unbelievable," she hissed. "If you don't give me that money, you are not invited to the wedding." "Fine. Don't try to blackmail me." That's when my father erupted. "Get out of my house, you greedy little miser. I don't want to see your face here again. From this moment, you are no longer my daughter." I just stared at him. Sure, they'd always treated me worse than Jake and Maddie, but this was an unprecedented level. "You're serious?" "Completely," Mom stated, her voice flat as pavement. "Do not return until you've come to your senses." So I left. No embraces, no farewells, nothing. Just that particular silence you get when someone decides you're worth less than a celebration. I was wounded, furious, but I refused to yield. After that dinner, nobody called. Not a single time. For a while, I still made attempts, sent birthday messages via WhatsApp to my parents, to Jake, to Madison. Nothing. No responses. Not even a casual emoji. After months of cold, deliberate silence, I ceased trying. Meanwhile, I took that $50,000 and committed what they would deem the unforgivable. I invested it. A portion went into a promising medical tech startup. The remainder I distributed across bonds and stocks through a brokerage account, studying market reports while others watched sitcoms. 5 years later, the startup was acquired by a strategic investor, and my share was valued around $700,000. I didn't quit my job. I remained an analyst at the asset management firm, but I built my own portfolio privately. Another 5 years passed, my capital reached roughly $2.5 million. Brokerage accounts, bonds, foreign assets, stakes in promising projects. Everything functioned in harmony like a precision machine. Throughout all those years, my family never discovered my success. They had completely erased me, zero idea what I did or how I was faring. Which brings us back to Aunt Diane's call. Mother's Day was 2 weeks away, and I decided, why not at least attempt it? Maybe 10 years was enough time for tempers to settle. On Mother's Day, I went to visit them. I bought an enormous bouquet of chrysanthemums and white lilies from a high-end florist and drove to Jersey City, to the same building where I'd grown up. Nothing had changed. Same peeling paint, same scribbled walls in the stairwell. I climbed to the 14th floor and knocked. My mother opened the door. When she saw me, her face cycled through a slideshow of emotions: surprise, confusion, and finally, aggravation. "What are you doing here?" "Hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day." I extended the bouquet. "I just wanted to talk. Maybe try to mend things." She didn't accept the flowers. Behind her, I could see my dad, Jake, and Madison with her husband. My sister was holding 2 small children, kids I was seeing for the first time. I attempted to step forward. "May I come in?" Mom immediately blocked the doorway. "There's no room for you here. Understand? Leave." And she slammed the door directly in my face. I stood there like a fool, holding this armful of blooms in a grimy hallway that smelled of dust and stale cooking oil. For a minute, I compelled myself to move. I descended the same stairs I'd rashed up as a child, tossed the bouquet into the first trash bin outside, sat in my car, and breathed very carefully, as if anything more forceful would snap me in two. Happy Mother's Day. I didn't tell Aunt Diane immediately. I knew she'd be more distressed than I was. Instead, I plunged back into work. My investments continued growing. The portfolio surpassed $3 million. My firm's salary increased again. Queens started to feel too confined. One evening, I returned home, surveyed my small one-bedroom, and thought, it's time to buy my own place. I contacted a realtor and listed my requirements: a house in the suburbs within an hour of New York, minimum 3 bedrooms, a decent-sized lot, and non-negotiable, a swimming pool. Over the next weeks, we toured various areas across Westchester County, viewing gated communities with security booths and manicured lawns. Then I saw it. A modern house in a gated business-class subdivision about 40 minutes from Manhattan. Open-plan kitchen and living area with a central island, master bedroom featuring a walk-in closet, 2 guest rooms, a 12,000-square-foot lot, a heated outdoor pool, and a built-in barbecue space. The asking price was $1.3 million. We negotiated down to 1.2, and I offered to pay in full via escrow, no mortgage. The seller agreed immediately. 3 weeks later, we closed at the title company. Just like that, I became a homeowner. Moving day was chaotic but joyous. For years, I'd been collecting furniture and decor, waiting for the right place. Designer armchairs, custom lighting, paintings by contemporary artists, everything finally had a home. I called Aunt Diane to share the news. "Emily, I'm so thrilled for you. I'm incredibly proud." "Thank you." I'm considering a housewarming. Will you come and see it? Absolutely. May I inform the rest of the family? They'll want to see what you've achieved. Sure, invite anyone you wish, except my parents, Jake, or Madison. I did not want them there. We set the housewarming for September, exactly 4 months after that delightful Mother's Day visit. I invited colleagues from the asset management firm, friends from my university years, and I told Aunt Diane she could bring any relatives she deemed safe. The day of the party, the house filled with people. It felt incredible to possess my own space and share it with people who genuinely valued me. My cousins on my dad's side attended as well, the same ones who'd also inherited Grandma's $50,000. Logan walked around with his jaw practically on the floor. This place is insane, he remarked. I had no idea.
Your parents have been telling everyone you struggled with alcohol and gambling. That's supposedly why nobody communicates with you anymore. I nearly choked on my champagne. Seriously? She nodded. Yes, they've relayed that narrative to anyone inquiring why you never attend anything. I gave one sharp laugh. All right, here is what truly occurred. I relayed everything regarding the inheritance, how they demanded I surrender my $50,000 for Madison's wedding budget, how they ejected me when I refused, and how they maintained total silence for a decade. You cannot be serious. Hannah was stunned. They cut you off over that? Exactly. And now they desire re-entry solely because they uncovered my investment success. That's insane, Logan said, joining us. I'm so sorry you endured that. It's fine, I shrugged. Honestly, I'm better off without them. And that was the pure truth. The house was stunning, my career was taking off, matters with my boyfriend Nathan were excellent, and I was encircled by people who sincerely cared. We were midway through grilling by the pool when someone commenced pounding on the front door so forcibly the walls vibrated. I went to open it. On the doorstep stood my entire original fan club. My mother, my father, Jake, and Madison. Their eyes blazed with self-righteous fury. What is this circus? Mom snapped, brushing past me into the foyer. Why weren't we invited to this housewarming? Because you didn't even permit me past the threshold on Mother's Day. You slammed the door in my face. Recall? Dad was gazing around, his eyes wide as saucers. Where did you obtain funds for a house like this? None of your concern, Dad. Mom puffed herself up. You deceived us all these years, played the impoverished victim while you were rolling in money. Only affluent people can afford a residence like this. The entire party had frozen. My guests stood observing the little spectacle my relatives had brought to my living room. The magnitude of my bank balance is not your concern, I stated. Please vacate my house. But Mom wasn't finished. She spotted Logan and Hannah and made a beeline for them. You two must talk some sense into her, she whined. Emily ran off and severed ties without cause. She's behaved like a selfish brat this entire time. They appeared utterly bewildered, unsure where to position themselves. I'll repeat this one final time, I announced, loud enough for all to hear. Exit my house or I will telephone 911 and report you for trespassing. That finally penetrated. They stormed out, slamming the door as though that might knock sense into me. After they departed, I turned to my guests with a broad smile. Apologies for the minor performance, everyone. Now, where were we? Let's continue the party. Most chuckled. The tension gradually drained from the room, though I observed some relatives still had questions frozen in their expressions. I didn't feel like unpacking my childhood then, so I concentrated on being a gracious hostess. Later, after everyone left, I sat alone in my living room replaying the incident. For 10 years, my parents had narrated to everyone that I'd drunk myself into oblivion and squandered all my funds on gambling, depicting me as a failure to rationalize cutting me off. Yet, the instant they observed my house and realized I possessed money, they abruptly desired re-entry. It wasn't about affection, it wasn't about familial bonds, it was about money. It had perpetually been solely about that. The following morning, my phone erupted. Calls, voicemails, messages. I didn't answer, but they left voice notes and texts. From my mother. We know you are a prosperous investor now. You are obliged to share with your family. From my elder sister. I have a mortgage with Wells Fargo. I'm scarcely managing the payments. You must assist. From my brother. I genuinely require a new car. You could loan me funds interest-free until I regain my footing. I read all that nonsense and merely shook my head. 10 years of silence, and the moment they learn I have money, they come crawling with outstretched hands. I blocked every number without replying to a single message. A week later, Aunt Diane called. Emily, your parents are terrorizing me with calls. They're attempting to reach you through me. What did you tell them? That they had their opportunity when you visited on Mother's Day with flowers. They wasted it. And I also stated, I believe they only care presently because they heard about your money. Bullseye. You're correct, I said. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. Do not capitulate. You deserve better. I assumed the block button would finally conclude it. Of course not. They weren't planning to relinquish. A couple of weeks later, I was driving home from work. As I approached my gate, I noticed a familiar, aged Hyundai parked outside my parents' vehicle. They were waiting. The moment I entered the driveway, they leapt out. Emily, we must converse, Dad commenced. No, we needn't, I replied. I blocked your numbers for a reason. Come on, Em, Mom switched to her saccharine, sugar-coated voice. We're family. Let's manage this maturely. We ceased being family 10 years ago when you expelled me for not surrendering my inheritance. That was an eternity ago, Dad attempted to smooth things. Everyone said statements they didn't mean. No, I corrected. You intended every syllable, and the only reason you're here now is because you discovered my money. Mom's artificial smile vanished instantly. So what? You're supposed to help your family. That's the system. Where was that familial support when I was launching my career, waiting tables during college, when I visited you on Mother's Day? They possessed no retort. Depart from my property, I stated. If you refuse, I will contact the police and file reports for harassment and trespassing. They glowered at me for several additional seconds, then returned to their car and drove off. I knew it wasn't the end. I was accurate. A week later, they ambushed me at work. I was walking from my office to my car in the parking garage of a midtown business center when the entire crew emerged from behind a concrete pillar. Emily, wait, Jake called. I turned. Mom, Dad, Jake, and Madison were marching toward me in a small formation. You must be joking, I said. This constitutes stalking now. We merely wish to converse, Madison said, adopting her best sorrowful expression. Just 5 minutes. You possessed 10 years to converse. You replied, silence. Now it's my turn. We committed an mistake, Mom forced out. Please forgive us. For what precisely? I inquired. For ejecting me? For 10 years of pretending I don't exist? For fabricating lies to everyone that I'm an alcoholic, degenerate gambler? Or merely for missing the segment where I became rich? They all stared at the ground. We heard about your investments, Dad finally said, altering tactics. Splendid work. You've succeeded admirably for yourself. Without any help from you, I highlighted. Look, Jake attempted the emotional route. Yes, circumstances became difficult previously, but we stand family. Families forgive each other. Families support each other during hardships. Families also don't concoct repulsive stories about each other. You are strangers to me. Please, Emily, Madison added, striving to muster a tear. I truly am experiencing difficulty with my mortgage. If you could aid just a slightly. And there it was, the nucleus of it. Let me be very clear, I declared. I owe you nothing, not a single dollar. These are my money, earned with my mind and my labor. You relinquished the prerogative to ask my help the instant you told me I was no longer your daughter. I turned, entered my car, and drove away, abandoning them in the parking garage's midst. After that minor episode, I intensified my stance. I consulted a lawyer regarding a restraining order, exploring my options if they persisted in appearing. Just knowing I had that option facilitated breathing. But peculiarly, after that confrontation, they finally retreated. Months elapsed, no calls, no surprise visits, no theatrics directed at me. Frankly, everything was proceeding more superbly than I could have orchestrated. 2 years passed without my parents endeavoring to breach my life anew. They were the best 2 years of my existence. My investment portfolio crossed the $5 million threshold. I received another promotion at work, Nathan and I cohabited and started contemplating engagement. The house transformed into a sort of gravitation center. Each month, I hosted dinner parties, holiday gatherings, summer barbecues by the pool. Aunt Diane was a regular attendee, along with Logan, Hannah, and other relatives who became my authentic family. At one such gathering, Logan pulled me aside. "Em, I must relay something. What's occurring? Your parents have been inquiring about your parties." Imploring what? They informed them that you host these large events. They desired to know if I could invite them on some occasion. I couldn't suppress a laugh. And what did you respond? That I lack the authority to invite individuals into your residence. If they wish to attend, they must request you directly. And what did they undertake? Nothing. I think they comprehend what your answer would be. Precisely. I stated, after everything they've perpetrated, they should comprehend I'm never readmitting them so they can enjoy my house and my success. Later that night, as the party diminished, we ended up talking again regarding the old narratives, the alleged alcoholism and gambling. Logan finally asked the question he'd been circumventing. All right, truthfully, what happened between you and your parents? Because that whole addiction tale obviously sounds like absolute rubbish. So I delineated it again, this time before a small circle of people who